Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're reading part 2 of chapter 13 of Child of the Wind. Jett almost said something, but some instinct urged him to stay quiet. She wasn't done, and he needed to hear this. Since she didn't want to look at him, she kept her face down. We have nothing in common. Oh, we both like riding and we can play chess, but that's it. We're not compatible enough to make a marriage work. Because I don't like that damned dog? He knew she'd been offended when he spoke out against the lambs as well. It's not just that. I can handle you and Bentley not really liking each other. He's not all that fond of you. Though Bentley did have some respect for Jett. That she had noticed. It's that you hate the twins. You want me to leap to obey any order you issue and threaten to beat me if I don't comply. You have no respect for my own abilities and even chastise me for helping Nora with her horse. Is that what this is about? Maybe he had overreacted, but this was ridiculous. You'd beat our children. Now he blinked at her in confusion. I would discipline our children when it was called for. I wouldn't just randomly take a belt to them. I'm not abusive, and I'm certainly not insane. He didn't understand, she realized, so she tried to explain it. I never had a family. I had Duncan, and he loves me as a daughter, but I always knew I wasn't related to him by blood. Growing up, I always knew I wanted children. 4, maybe 6, maybe more. 6 children? Even Jett was surprised. Most nobly born women didn't want quite so many. Or more. She meant it. But as a foundling, I had very little chance at a good marriage. Though I longed to marry someone like Duncan, I feared I'd probably have to wed one of his crofters. With no family and no dowry, I couldn't look much higher. Then Duncan told me I was the Barsland heiress and I was betrothed to the son of a duke. You have no idea how relieved I was. I was even excited. I thought I'd finally have a chance at the life I'd always dreamed of. That I have a house full of children and a husband who cherished us all. I would cherish your children, he promised. And he would. Like most men, he wanted children. You would beat my children. Now he understood. She wouldn't marry him because he might, at some point in the distant future, have to discipline one of their children. Children who didn't even exist yet. Women were ridiculous. At least this woman was. But telling her so didn't seem like a good idea, so he took a deep breath. Would you feel better if I promised never to touch one of our children in anger? He could make that promise without outright lying to her. She finally brought her head up to look at him. And what about me? He couldn't keep the smile off his face. I'll never promise not to touch. When she returned his smile, he slid forward until he was next to her. Her face turned up to his, inviting him to press his lips to hers in a bruising kiss. She kissed him back, even wrapped her arms around his neck, but when his hands touched her breast, she pulled back immediately. No, she whispered brokenly. He wasn't ready to give up. But if we're to be married, many things can happen between now and then. I will not be one of those poor souls left with a bastard in her belly. Jett flinched at the image, but he couldn't argue her logic. More than one lady had been ruined by giving herself to a potential husband too soon. Tilda, the woman he had thought to marry, came immediately to mind. At least she wasn't pregnant. At least he didn't think she was. Jett shook his head at himself, not wanting to think about the woman he'd bedded and abandoned, even if it was unintentional. He blinked and focused instead on his betrothed. I can ensure you remain a virgin, he promised. You need not be compromised in truth. Canace looked up at him with suspicion, drawing a chuckle from his throat. It's possible, I assure you. But she only frowned at him. I don't trust you. He couldn't blame her for that, but he wanted to touch her. Casting about for a way to convince her, Jett wrapped an arm around her. She pulled away. Let's talk about something else. Anything else. We could talk about the wedding, he whispered as he moved ever closer. Even he was surprised to find that he wasn't nearly as opposed to their marriage as he had been. She shook her head so violently her auburn hair flew around her. Then what do you want to talk about? He finally asked, giving up the pursuit for now. Silence reigned for several long minutes before Canace finally raised her head to look at him. "Tell me about my family." "What do you want to know?" "Everything." Canace turned to fully face him. "I don't know anything about them. Duncan told me I had brothers, but he didn't mention their names. I know my mother's name was Dawn, but my father—" "Garrick." Jett leaned against the tree and smiled. "Your father was a good man. I was only 10 when he died, but I remember him as a kindly man, one just a little older than my own father. He was good to everyone, treated even the lowest peasant like a worthy gentleman, and he was a very good friend to both my father and Mac." A grin slowly spread across her face. "And my mother?" "Your mother was beautiful, unfailingly kind and generous, and just generally the sweetest person I've ever known. I'd wish I'd known her better." That was certainly true. Dawn had been the very picture of the perfect lady. "You look like her." "I do?" Even Duncan hadn't told her that. Perhaps Jett was making that part up. "The hair is different," Jett acknowledged, "and the eyes are certainly not hers. But your cheekbones, your mouth, even your ears, they're all her." "My ears?" Suddenly self-conscious, Canace covered her ears to keep them from his scrutiny. Jett laughed and pulled her hands away. "They're adorable, like perfect little shells, the kind you'd find walking along the whitest beaches in the world." The image made her giggle with pleasure, but she sobered quickly. "What were my brothers' names? And how old were they?" She had to know. His eyes grew sad. "Henry was about my age. Richard a few years younger. Arthur was just barely out of the cradle." Tears threatened to fall, but Canace dashed them away. "Were they your friends?" A lie would have been easiest, but she wanted the truth. She wanted to know how well he'd known all of them, how close he'd been to them, probably so she could ask him endless questions about the people she'd never known. He should have resented it. He should have been irritated by her interest in things long past, but he instead found himself sympathizing with her. It wasn't at all like him. Truth, then. Henry and I were close. We bonded over a shared love of pestering my sister. But the other two were a little too young for me to have spent much time with them. What were they like? It was a difficult question to answer, especially since they'd all been so young, so he decided to relate a few of his own memories. The time he and Henry tried to catapult Richard over the garden wall made Canace laugh. When he told her how they'd spent all day gathering up worms to hide in his sister's bed, she shot him a dark glare. All in all, he felt he'd given her a fairly good representation of her brothers. They had been mischievous, but not cruel. By the way she was laughing, she approved. "Have you been to Barsland since?" "Since?" "No," he answered immediately, saving her from having to finish that sentence. "None of us have. My father appointed a steward shortly after the betrothal contract was signed, but we never went back." Canace glanced at him, a fire in her eyes. "I want to go." Jett nodded. "We will. We'll be living there after the wedding." "No." She set her jaw and glared at him. "I want to go now. Today. I want to see my home before we wed, while it's still mine, and not ours." It would be so easy to take offense, but he understood. She'd never seen the place where her parents had lived and died. If he were in her position, a trip to Barsland would have been uppermost in his own mind. But all of that didn't mean they could just jump up and ride away. "It takes the better part of a day to get to Barsland," he explained patiently. "If we left now, we'd have to spend the night in the bush, and I doubt you'd appreciate such conditions." She graced him with an unladylike snort. "I've spent nights outside before. I could do it." "But it's late," he persisted, trying a different tactic. "By the time we packed, dined, and set out, we'd be lucky to have an hour's worth of light left. Isn't it better to set out at first light and make the journey in a single day?" Despite his very valid point, Canace shook her head. "I want to go now. Organizing the servants for such a journey will take at least until tomorrow." He was right about that, but she wasn't willing to concede just yet. "But how long would it take us to go back to the manor, throw some things in our saddlebags, and ride away?" Jett blinked at her. "Just the two of us?" It probably wasn't her best idea, but she ran with it anyway. "If we're to be married, there shouldn't be a problem." He almost pointed out that she'd refused to marry him a few short moments ago, but common sense reared its head just in time. At this moment, in this place, she was agreeing to marry him and to be alone with him for at least several days. The idea appealed to him. Did it really appeal to her? He decided to find out. I can't promise to keep my hands to myself if we're bedding down in the bush. Canace bit her lip. His warning was clear. If she were to leave Barsland tonight, they might end up in bed together. That wasn't an option, not until they were married in the eyes of God and the law. She would not sacrifice her virginity just so she could get to Barsland a few hours earlier. Seeing her hesitation, Jett decided to set one of her concerns to rest. I might not keep my hands to myself, but I can promise that you'll return to Suffolk with your virginity intact. I still don't trust you. Jett wound an arm around her waist and was pleasantly surprised when she didn't pull away. You'll have to trust me eventually, and I won't take you to Barsland without the benefit of a dozen attendants if I have to behave myself entirely. His hand crept upward to stroke the underside of her breast, causing Canace to shiver. In truth, she enjoyed his attentions. She wanted him to kiss her, to touch her, to caress her. She just didn't want him to bed her unless he was first joined to her in holy matrimony. Did that make her a wanton? Maybe. Did she care? She wasn't sure yet. If he thought her a wanton, he might not want to marry her. As these thoughts rolled around her head, she realized she once again reconciled herself to this arranged marriage. Despite everything she didn't like about him, he was handsome enough, not too old, and he appeared genuinely attracted to her. And their marriage was inevitable unless they wanted to invite the wrath of Henry VIII. What was the point in fighting? Jett's hand had moved higher and was now teasing its way inside her gown. Though she knew she should stop him, should object in some way, Canace decided to allow him this liberty. It pleased her as much as it did him, and it was no threat to her precious virginity. As his warm hand cupped her breast, she moaned and raised her lips to his. Pleased with her quick response, Jett was quick to catch her sweet mouth in a bruising kiss. At first he thought he might be applying a little too much pressure, but when she shivered with pleasure, his concerns fled. Taking her nipple between his thumb and forefinger, he rolled it until it was a hard little jewel and she was trembling under his touch. Only then did he reach for the fastenings of her gown with his free hand. And only then did she pull away, tearing her lips from his but not forcing him to take his hand from her breast. No, she whispered. I don't want to. I want to go to Barsland. Today. Jett smiled and kissed her shoulder, but he did stop unfastening her gown. Even if I don't behave myself? He squeezed her breast as he spoke, drawing another gasp from her. Canace leaned back against him, encouraging him to continue. Do you promise I will not be compromised? His lips found her neck. You're already compromised. A quick squeeze of her breast and a nibble at her neck proved his point. Compromised in truth, I mean. For Jett, this was torture. She was practically in his lap, her breast warm in his hand, her flesh sweet under his lips, but he could not go any further. Deciding that he had better stop before he couldn't stop, he withdrew his hand, kissed her once more, and pulled back. He'd indulge later on the road to Barsland. That much he promised himself. If we're going, we'd best head back to Suffolk, he decided, helping her to stand on shaky legs. Canace only grinned up at him. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this chapter, stay tuned for more tales of romance. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.